didn't tell me he was gonna wear my outfit today. We went to take a picture together this morning, and I was like, man, we're twinning down to the sneakers. So I thought that was fun. But thank you so much for having me. I gotta say, this community is one of my favorites. You're one of the most vibrant social communities that I've been a part of, the wireless community. And when Matt asked me to present, I said, what do you want me to talk about? And he said, I don't know, I'm sure you'll figure it out. So I'm gonna talk about one of my favorite things, which is making network engineering cool again. And I promise that this will be what you remember when today's over. So if we haven't met yet, my name is Alexis. I'm currently a technical evangelist at a company called Megaport. And over the past 2 years, I've been creating a lot of short-form content on platforms like TikTok, LinkedIn, and Instagram about everything IT and network engineering. Along the way, I've been invited to conferences, I've collaborated with amazing companies, but through all of this, there's a few things that have become very apparent to me. So, number one, most people have no idea what we actually do. Even though we live and breathe technology every day, to the majority of the population, connectivity has become a utility. You just assume that it's going to be there. Number two, our industry is facing a huge talent gap. So every company I've ever worked with has struggled to hire senior engineers. And engineers are leaving our field faster than they're coming in. And with how reliant we are on technology, that's terrifying. And number three, at some point, network engineering became uncool. And I don't know when it happened, but everyone today wants to get into tech or break into tech. But when you ask them, what technology do you want to get into? They say cloud, AI, data, right? Like now it's AI, but you can have all of those careers, and I could throw a rock and someone on the internet is talking about those things, but at the end of the day, what it comes down to is all of those technologies rely on the networks that we build. When you think about a data center, what's a data center without a network? It's just an island, right? You need that connectivity. And, we're at a wireless conference, and I'm guilty of this too. I was on my way here, I was on the airplane, and I'm trying to connect to the Wi-Fi to load TikTok because I don't know how to exist without my dopamine crutch. And nothing was loading. And I almost had to level set with myself, like, Alexis, you're flying over the middle of the Atlantic Ocean in a tin can, and you're upset because the Wi-Fi isn't working. But that's just how we've gotten today as a society. So, personally, I was born in 1997, not to date myself or anything, but I still remember being in high school and saving pictures to a floppy disk. I still remember going to the library to look for books. And I remember when the internet came out, and it was so cool because now I could instant message my friends. But somewhere along from the time that I graduated kindergarten and I graduated high school in 2015, no one was going to the library anymore to look for books, for research papers. No one was using paper maps to get around town. Cell phones had become a new commodity, and no one was really questioning how any of it worked. I mean, think about how far we've come since the internet started. Does anyone know what this number is? Okay. 4,294,967,296. It's the number of total possible public IPv4 addresses, and we need to start moving to IPv6 because we literally don't have any address space left. Whether or not we actually do it, well, we can talk about that later. But we have smartphones, smart watches, smart fridges, smart thermostats, smart toasters. My sister texted me a couple weeks ago. She said, I got a new smart shower head. And then she sent me this picture that has an app that she can track her hot water usage with. Because of course, in 2025, your shower head has an app. Right now, they're estimating that we will have 75 billion connected devices to the internet by the end of 2025. And somehow, all of those things need to talk, and most of them are connected wirelessly. So no, Even with AI, networking is never going to go away. With how dependent our world is on technology, network infrastructure is critical infrastructure. During COVID, when everyone got sent to work from home, you know who didn't get sent home? Network engineers. Because someone still had to maintain the network so that everyone else could work. High-frequency trading, air traffic control, shopping malls, cruise ships, rockets and satellites, mining companies, governments, every single business out there today needs a network. Now, quick show of hands, how many of you have been in IT for more than 15 years? If you're at 14, you can round up. It's okay, I won't judge you. So look around the room, keep them up. I've talked to a lot of you guys, and from what you told me, back in the early 2000s, building the internet was one of the coolest careers that you could choose. And back then, in the early 2000s, everyone was just excited to get online and to get connected, sending emails, reading blogs, right? Even if it meant waiting a couple minutes for dial-up to connect so that you could actually get online. The problem is that all of you guys did such a good job connecting everyone that people forget it exists because we made the network so good that for the majority of the population, it's invisible. Even leadership at the highest levels of our organizations still think the internet works like magic. How many of you have heard something along these lines? Hey, so we decided we're gonna stand up a new site. You guys can get it online next week, right? Right? Meanwhile, the gear has 2 months of lead times. It's gonna take another 3 to 6 months for your circuits to get connected, but we'll get it online next week. Meanwhile, the real estate team had been queued in for the last 6 months. And this is a true story too. So I was working with the CIO of a company, and they were so cloud first. Every time we talked to them, they're cloud first, cloud first, cloud first. And when they built their new building and they built their new floor plans, they had no wiring closets anywhere. And I'm talking to their network team, and their network team's like, yeah, I called my boss, and my boss said, why do we need wiring closets? We're cloud first. So, connectivity has become a utility. Let's face it. I don't wonder what happens when I turn on the lights. I turn them on and they work, and most people don't wonder what's behind the Wi-Fi. They connect and they expect to get online. In fact, back in 2016, the United Nations declared that having the ability to access the internet was a fundamental human right. That was 10 years ago. 10 years. And this new generation that's up and coming, the kids that are in high school today, they don't know anything about the internet. And I like to use the example of the 13-year-old kid with the iPad, classic. If you ask him how the internet works, he's gonna go, well, I connect to the Wi-Fi, I hit this button, I put in the password, and then I watch Mr. Beast on YouTube. And that's it. There's nothing else. To take it a step further, I was practicing this presentation with one of my old colleagues at Cisco, and he said, well, Alexis, I actually have kids, and my 7-year-old, he doesn't even know that much. He doesn't know he's connected to anything. We get in the car and we drive away from the house, and he goes, Daddy, YouTube's broken, fix it. Right? Being connected isn't exciting anymore. It's expected. And as network engineers, we're expected to make the network work 100% of the time. And for the most part, we do a really good job of it. But if we make the network invisible, how are these kids today going to know that it exists and that it's a field that they can work in unless we tell them? When they go to pick a college major, they're not going to be thinking about how the internet works. They're now thinking about what they can do with it. And that's part of the reason that all of these other careers, cloud, data, computer science, cybersecurity, have become so popular. But as a society, we're facing this inflection point where the people who are in their 50s, who have a ton of knowledge, are leaving the workforce faster than new people are coming in. And like I said earlier, every single company I've ever worked with has struggled to backfill their senior talent. So you might be thinking, well, Alexis, I did my time, right? I've got a couple more years in me, and you know where I want to go? The woods. Where there's no Wi-Fi, and there's no cell signal, and no one can call me to tell me that the network's down and I need to come in and fix things, or I need to open a ticket, right? No, that's not my problem anymore. But the magic that we built the internet with, well, you know, and I know, that it's not going to continue that way if there's not people here to continue to learn and maintain these networks that we built the way that it needs to evolve to support new infrastructure and new technologies. Whether that's cloud or AI or whatever else that's coming down the line, brain chips, like new smart devices. And it's kind of scary, right? Now, this isn't just about losing technical skills or knowledge transfer, but when you guys leave the industry and retire, we're also going to be losing decades of problem-solving experience. And that's something that you learn over time. You can't just replace it with AI or certifications or books. You need that experience. So one story I'd like to share with y'all. This is Elliot. I met Elliot at Cisco Live last year. I was giving a presentation on personal branding and talking about LinkedIn and how it can help your career and expose you to new opportunities. And Elliot came over to me at the end of the presentation, and he said, "Hey, Alexis, you know, your session was great. I wanted to tell you, you had a lot of good points about personal branding and career development and getting a new job, but I don't need any of that. I got a couple more years left in me, and I just want to make sure that I'm able to help young people learn all of the things that I learned so that my knowledge doesn't die with me when I leave." What this is really about is passing down your legacy. We need to make network engineering cool again so that the next generation can take the reins and make it even better than we did. And to make sure that it can support these new technologies that don't even exist yet. So how do we do that? How do we actually make network engineering cool again? How do we talk to young people about why this is one of the best career fields that they can choose and study? I think we can start with the obvious one, that nothing works without the network. No AI, no cybersecurity, no cloud computing. Networking is the foundation for every other technology. And knowing networking, no matter what you choose to do later on in your career, will make you a better developer, a better cloud engineer, and you'll have tons of options for career growth. Number two, you can work in any industry. Every business has wireless, right? You can, even if you're a wireless engineer, you can go into multiple fields. Now you have a transferable skill, so you're always going to have a job, no matter if that's in healthcare, finance, oil and gas. I think Matt told me he surveyed the McLaren Center, right? So many cool opportunities because, again, every business needs a network. Number three, we've got a flexible job. You've got options to work on site, work remote, to travel, to see cool things, work with cool people, go cool places. I mean, how many of us traveled to get to London? Yeah, right? Pretty cool. There's always something new to learn. We're here at Wireless Design Day to bring back new knowledge to our organizations so that we can level up and help support new technologies on these networks that we own. There's always going to be something changing because as fast as technology advances, we're going to have to keep up with it. And last but not least, what makes networking a little bit different than any other career is that it's collaborative. We all have to work together. Now, there's engineers in other industries where they're very, very siloed or it's almost like a competition, but at the end of the day, the network only works if we're all working together. Right? Think about peering. Think about wireless transfer, making sure our networks don't overlap, right? We all need to work together to create better designs. But even if we start talking about what we do, socializing network engineering a little bit more, there's still a big disconnect happening somewhere because every single day I get messages just like this. These are people who want to break into our field and don't know how to do it. I want to get into networking, where do I start? I took my certification, but I can't get a job. Or I heard you need to take a certification, which one should I get, right? Great option. And you know what normally we tell them to do? We say, go build a home lab, right? Go home lab with your cert. And that's great. Now I've got my router, maybe I've got 2 switches, and then we tell them to go manage an enterprise network with like 400 sites and thousands of devices across the globe. There's a little bit of a learning gap there, right? And what's really surprising, do you know how many computer science students reach out to me? And they say, hey, I hate coding. What's that thing with wires? That looks cool. I'm like, hey man, I hate coding too. Come over here, right? We're telling everyone that they need to automate networks. Let's go get this computer science kid that knows Python fundamentals and throw him into networking. Great idea. But I heard someone the other day, they referred to tech jobs as white-collar trades. And if you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. Whether you're talking about computer science, data analytics, network engineering, if you compare that to working as an electrician, a mechanic, or a carpenter, if you hired someone to do work on your house and they showed up and they said, hey, I have this certification, I got this piece of paper, it says I can do drywall, I can fix your kitchen, right? You're gonna be like, get out of here. This is the first house you've ever worked on. You're not touching my house. I hired you to do work. You should have some experience. Go get experience and come back. And we're telling these kids the same thing, to take a certification, and then that's enough experience to go work on networks. But someone has to give them their first job. And we put this huge emphasis on degrees and certifications. Like, I've met people who have the entire alphabet after their last name and no hands-on skills. And just because you have the piece of paper doesn't mean that you can do the job. But we need to think about how we can give people that gap where they can get both in order to get in. So I really think that the trades got it right. A lot of times they do these things called apprenticeships, where maybe you go to trade school for 6 months to a year, and you get the certification, you get the basics, and then you go work under a senior or a master plumber or carpenter or electrician, where you slowly work with them to take over their business or take over their clients as they phase out of their career. And when I think about it, network engineering is a skilled trade. Being a developer is a skilled trade. And in America, internships are pretty common. I think they're common in Europe as well. But those are little 3-month stints. What do you learn in 3 months on a 3-month internship? I might go in and be like, okay, well, this is how I'm supposed to behave in corporate. But do I learn anything that I'm going to carry with me the rest of my career? Maybe. Maybe not. But 3 months doesn't substitute working with someone over a long period of time. And when we're thinking about replacing senior talent that's worked in the field for years, that ramp up really should be a year, 2 years or more to replace that talent and do that knowledge transfer. So what do we do about that? Number one, it starts with us having this conversation. I talk about this all of the time because I think it's really scary that we have so many people retiring and no one can find new engineers. And we need to start socializing it, start talking about it, start making change in our own organizations. But also, being willing to bring young people in, especially if you're in a senior position or a leadership position in your organization, being willing to take a chance on a younger engineer and make sure that they have the support and the system that they need to grow. Looking ahead over the next 5 to 10 years at your company, thinking about who on your team is about to retire and what am I doing to help fill that gap before they go. Consider starting an apprenticeship program or an internship program if you don't have the bandwidth for an apprenticeship program. Or even a job shadowing program, because there's people out there who want to get into the field, who took the certifications, and they just need a little bit of guidance to go in the right direction. And also, we need to start talking about our work. When someone asks what we do, don't just say that you work in tech and then change the subject, right? We do something that's really cool and really important. And when we talk about AI infrastructure, when we talk about cloud, when we talk about cybersecurity, we can't let people forget what's behind all of that. Start sharing your stories, whether that's through creating content, mentoring younger engineers, presenting at your kids' high school, the more exposure that we can bring our field to make networking visible again, the more we'll get younger people into our field. And also, presenting IT as a business enabler. We can't let our leadership forget how important what we do is to their end business, because if users can't connect to what they need to get to, they can't do their work. And in today's world, IT impacts every corner of every business, employee experience and customer experience. Even if we're thinking about things like smart buildings, right? Smart buildings have digital signage, IoT, infrastructure for supporting remote work. All of those things rely on the network at the end of the day. And lastly, we need to take care of our people networks too. We're here at Wi-Fi Design Day because we either want to gain new skills or knowledge, but one of the greatest resources that you will ever have is the people sitting next to you in this room. Make sure that you're also growing your people network. And my favorite conference tip that I give every time I talk at a conference, never eat alone. I know I'm keeping you from lunch in a couple minutes here, but don't be afraid. We're all here to do the same thing. Don't be afraid to just walk up to someone that you've never met, introduce yourself, and hey, what do you do for work? You work in Wi-Fi, I work in Wi-Fi. You already have something in common. And trying to be as present as possible. Unless it's a critical outage, your emails can probably wait. So I promised at the start that this would be one of the things you remember today when I get off stage. And ultimately, you are the ones that are going to make network engineering cool again. Not just by building networks, but by showing the world why they matter. Because the internet only works if we're all working together. And that includes bringing in the next generation of engineers who can carry your work forward. The future of our industry depends on what we're doing today. We need to make network engineering visible again, inspire the next generation, and make sure that the knowledge and the passion that we built the internet with carries on. So we did it once before. We made the internet the coolest thing in tech, and now it's time to do it again. Thank you.